Hamish Bidwell and Mark Hinton last updated 1625, August 17, 2017. New Zealand have held the famous trophy since 2003. Is Michael Cheika slowly building a decent team, or will they be the same old rabble this year? Rugby writers Hamish Bidwell and Mark Hinton debate the issue. Wallabies will be better in 2017, it's easy to scoff. A massive challenge looms for coach Michael Cheika and his Wallabies. After all, Australia have become so bad at Super Rugby that they can't even cull the right team. The Western Force are, by far, the most admirable, hard-working, competitive team Australia have got, and yet they're the ones getting the chop. If you want to talk flops and teams who woefully underachieved, then look no further than the Waratahs and Reds. The one consolation for this overall lack of competitiveness is that the Wallabies have been in camp for a comparative eternity. Having 5 soon to become 4 average TOEFL supersides ISNTU, great look for the game in Australia, but that doesn't mean they can't distill it all down into a decent national team. At his best, Will Genia was about the best halfback in world rugby. Read more. Bledisloe Test full coverage. Rona to debut for Wallabies All Blacks name team for Bledisloe Test. Boyd not a vintage saviour season. Milner Scudder to suit up for Turbos. Cully dominant. Abs gone missing. Throw in Kurtley Beale and Will Genia, and the Wallabies should NT be too bad when they host the All Blacks at ANZ Stadium on Saturday night. Australia didn't get within 20 points of New Zealand during last year's Rugby Championship Bledisloe Cup Series. You look at the scores 428, 299 and 4,210 and assume the games were absolute mismatches. The first one definitely was, before the Wallabies produced a niggling, combative exhibition of damage limitation in the second. They actually played rather well in the third match and briefly drew level at 15-15, early in the second half. Only the TMO then controversially ruled Henry Spate's try-out and the All Blacks kicked away to win by plenty. The game was a contest, the Wallabies contributed significantly, and yet they looked up at the end to find themselves a whopping 32 points in arrears. The All Blacks ooze class and nous, on and off the park. That's why it's so easy to scoff. Australia can play well enough to believe they could win and still lose by so much it's not funny. Not all their players are particularly good. But in abrasive lock Adam Coleman, prop Scott Sio, centre Samu Kerevi and new captain Michael Hooper, Australia at least have a few blokes you can build a team around. History is a hard thing to overcome, though. The All Blacks have held the Bledisloe Cup since 2003 and both sides have become accustomed to a certain outcome in these games. Kurtley Beale adds some much-needed experience and guile to the Wallabies. It means that, no matter how well the Wallabies are going or how grim things might appear for the All Blacks, both sets of players are conditioned to believe one team will win. June's drawn British and Irish Lions series was evidence of how important that belief is. The All Blacks appeared to play those games with a fear of the consequences, rather than the certainty that marks so much of their football. The Wallabies will be much more competitive and difficult to beat on Saturday, than their super sides have proved this year. And so they should be. But it's still highly unlikely that they'll end up within 20 points of New Zealand come full time. Hamish Bidwell. It's going to be another long year for Michael Cheika. Forget the hot air and unfounded optimism coming out of the Wallabies camp. They're at least consistent at that, if not Test rugby. Forget the Lions series as a form guide on the All Blacks and forget even the law that every dog has its day. Bledisloe in Sydney will be more one-way traffic, with a more than familiar outcome. And that's more Bledisloe for a Wallabies outfit that has a long way to go to get back to a level when they can challenge the All Blacks on a consistent enough basis to push the annual 3-match series anywhere near to a decider. Look, surely it won't be as extreme as last year when the All Blacks launched their Rugby Championship campaign, and Bledisloe Cup retention, in style with a 6-428 dismantling of a woeful Wallabies side who were outgunned from pillar to post. Surely. But the Wallabies simply are not good enough at the minute to jump all over the New Zealanders, or the Lions over the final 2 tests of their series. As much as they might be poring over tapes from Wellington and Eden Park II and salivating over the blueprint to bring the All Blacks back to earth with thud, they just don't appear to have the cattle, cohesion or consistency to emulate those northern invaders. Nor, as it turns out, will they have a French referee, which might just have been the Lions' principal weapon, with Jerome Garces a late withdrawal, and old friend Wayne Barnes slotting in. Sentences you never thought you would write. The All Blacks will be rapt to have Wayne Barnes as their referee for Saturday night. But they will. There is certainly a hint of fallibility about the world's #1 side at the moment, and the Lions were good to expose that. They just haven't been the free-flowing menaces of 2016's Rugby Championship since, the end-of-year tour. The continued absence of hooker Dane Coles does little to reduce that. This team misses their gifted #2 a lot more than anyone is letting on. There is also an element of the unknown about how Damian McKenzie will fare in just his third test, and second as a starting fullback, about Liam Squire in his first real big chance to grab the #6 jersey, and also about Ofa Tuungafasi as backup tight head. The halfback has his challenges as well. But it all comes back to the strength of Australian rugby. The Wallabies have won one of the last 16 Bledisloe Cup tests for a reason. They are neither collectively nor individually at the level required to dethrone the All Blacks. Not yet anyway. It has been 15 long years since Australia was last home to the Bledisloe, and though there have been intermittent signs of a Wallabies resurgence, they have inevitably come to naught. Yes, there is plenty of intent. And they've had an age to prepare, with coach Michael Cheika vowing he has addressed serious fitness issues that have undermined the challenge in the past. But how many games did Australian teams win against New Zealand opposition in Super Rugby this year? None, is the simple answer. Israel Folau is a world-class operator, Michael Hooper is a classy sort, and Will Genia will bring his sniping ability at halfback. But they're the exceptions that prove the rule. The Wallabies simply aren't good enough to rattle the All Black cage. The Abs by plenty. And maybe even more Aussies go scrambling for their Kiwi parentage. Mark Hinton stuff.